Hey folks, it's Ed again. What we're going to do today in this installment of custom rod building tutorials is we're going to learn how to make our own cork handles. You could buy ready-made cork handles when you buy fishing rod components, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. They're very nice. They do a very good job of it. They're already made, and all you have to do is ream them to size and install them on the rod. But as you get a little more advanced in your building skills, you might want to start thinking about creating your own cork handles, and I'm going to teach you how to do that in this installment. It's very, very simple to do. It's very economical to do, and you can be extremely creative with it. When you build your own cork handles, you can do things like this, where you can put checkerboard patterns in them and trim rings. And we're going to do one with just a couple of basic trim rings, and we're not going to do checkerboards in this installment. That might be something I do a little later. But so let's just get started right into it. What you need is you need some cork, a couple different colors if you want, a turning arbor. This is what you're going to put the cork rings on, and then you're going to put this in the lathe to turn it down to size, shape it. You need a jig, or a clamp, excuse me. You need some wood glue right there. You need a paintbrush and a pad of paper, and that's really all you need to build a basic handle. I'm going to show you one other piece of equipment that I've got. It'll take these 1/2 inch thick cork rings, and I can trim them down into thinner wafers to put some decorative trim to them, and it's a real simple little gizmo. It's this piece of aluminum. It's an aluminum guide is what it is, and you put the cork in here, and you get this saw with it, and there's a groove in here, and you put the saw in the groove, and you cut through, and it takes that 1/2 inch piece of cork and it cuts a sliver off of it. So when you knock the cork out of there, you now have two pieces. So you've got that, and then you can take that piece that's already cut, and I'll cut one here for you so I'll show you how quick this is. And you can just stick it in here, and you just cut, let the saw follow the guide, putting reasonable pressure on it. Just don't put too much on or you'll break the blade. These blades do break quite easily. So you just keep cutting through until you feel it hit the bottom. You'll be able to tell when you hit the bottom and there's no more cork to cut, and you're just on the metal part of the jig. There it is, arm through. So then you just work the blade back out, knock it out of there, and now you've got two thinner pieces again. So that little tool there is for making slices. In the same set, you get this tool here, which will allow you to cut the corks into pie shapes. But like I said, we're not going to do that today because I just want to cover the basics on how to build a basic handle. But I don't like building just a plain old handle. I like to always put a little decoration into it. So really, we've got what we need. We've got some cork wafers of different colors. We're going to take one of these normal colored corks, and we're going to wafer this out too with slices. This cork cuts a lot easier. That darker cork is burnt. It's what's called a burnt cork. It cuts a little differently. It's a little tougher to cut. This regular cork actually cuts very quickly and very easily. You'll notice too, when we chuck this up in the lathe and you get to shaping it, it's going to cut differently on the lathe too, so you'll be able to tell a difference, but that's alright. There's nothing wrong with that. So there we go, I got that cut. I got a couple of wafers out of there. That'll do it. Okay, so what we're going to do is take our pad of paper, a Holiday Inn piece of paper. You get that at a hotel when you leave. Put a few of them in your suitcase. Squirt some glue onto a piece of paper. You take your arbor right here. First thing you do is you slide your first piece of cork on. Take your brush, put some glue on the brush, put a lot of cork or glue on the cork, and you'll want to get it on the arbor too. You can see there I'm not being at all careful about keeping it off the metal, because what that does is when this thing is spinning in the lathe and the glue is set up, the glue will kind of keep the cork from turning on the arbor. So then you just follow it up with another piece of cork, stick it on there, another coat of glue. Lots of it. Real liberal. You want every little surface covered. Be absolutely sure you got it all covered up. And don't worry about overflow because you're going to take all that off later. Put another ring on. Well, that ring's got too big a hole, so we'll throw that to the side. Put that ring on. And we'll put some more glue on real liberally. You can see I'm just glopping it on there. The only thing I would say is make sure you don't get it onto clothing because this wood glue never comes out of clothes and your wife will never be happy with you about that. Or your husband, I guess. I shouldn't generalize. Alright, we'll take some more glue, another cork. So we've got three basic parts. This is going to be for a split cork handle. I do a lot of split cork handles because it just keeps the weight down and it makes the rod that much more functional. So we'll take a thin cork ring wafer of the burnt. We'll stick that on. More glue. Covering it on there real good. Lovely. Just glop it on there. Get every surface. Leave nothing without glue on it. And then take a light ring. Stick that on there. More glue yet. We're running out of glue, so we'll pour some more on there when we need it. Okay, that cork ring's all covered. We're going to take another. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take one that's 2 thicknesses thick, just for something different. Put that on there like that. More glue. Oh, we're running out. Got to squirt some more. There we go. More glue. Just like that. And another light wafer. Glue again. You're getting the idea here, so we'll just get a couple more on here to finish this thing out. Plenty of glue on there. Oh, missed some spots. Again, like I said, leave no surface without glue on it. You want to make absolutely sure every inch of that surface, every square section of that surface got glue on it. Dark, like that. Cover it again. More glue. And there. So that's our rings. That's our handle. That's what our handle is going to basically come down to. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take, just up here so you can see what I'm doing. We're going to put this to the side. Here's our clamp. We're going to put this through the holes in the clamp. Just like that. I'm going to run these screws down. You may ask, does it have to be that long? Yeah, because if you do a full cork handle, you need the length. So you get that clamp down, and you can see the glue oozing out of there. You want to clamp this pretty tight. Just like that. I mean, get some good pressure on there. You don't need to get all He-Man on it and just squash the living snot out of it, but you want glue to be coming out of the seams like it is. That means you got enough glue in there. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take this and you're going to set it aside. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it aside, and come tomorrow, when all the glue is set up, we'll chuck this up in the lathe and we'll turn it into a handle. Alright? So while our cork is drying, I figured I'd go over the basic equipment that I use to turn cork handles. What you see in front of you is what's called a mini lathe, or a bench top lathe. It's I picked it up at Northern Tool. It's more than enough to turn cork handles. It takes up very, very little room. I mean, it's what, 12 inches in between. Well, they call it an 8 by 12 lathe, but overall it takes up about 30 inches on your workbench. It's not very big. This is the item number. I hope that focuses all right for you guys. You can buy these on Northern Tool. They're about $100. Perfect for turning cork handles. You can see here I've screwed down a vacuum nozzle for a shop vac. This helps with some of the dust collection when I'm doing a lot of cork. Cork creates a lot of dust and it creates a lot of residue. This really does a nice job of cleaning up most of it. For your benefit, when we actually turn the cork handles, I won't use it. What I do is I basically just plug the shop vac in here and turn it on, and it sucks up, I bet you, 80% of the dust. So it does a really good job of it. One other thing besides the lathe that's really critical is this chuck. You don't get this chuck with the lathe. This is a 3-jaw chuck, and you can see as you turn it, the jaws open and close. Let's see if I can get a better shot of it over here. See the jaws opening and close? So what happens is you take, when you put the arbor in there, close the jaws up, oops, and then you take and put these in here, and then you tighten it up nice and tight, and then that holds it holds this arbor so you can turn cork. You don't get this chuck with the lathe. You have to order that separate. Again, I got that out of Northern Tool, I'm sure of it. You just got to get the right chuck to fit the housing in here. And I'll see if I can dig up the information and send that to you guys so you can get it. That's crucial. You need to have that. Otherwise, the whole thing's for nothing. You need to be able to have that 3-jaw chuck. Some other things that you're going to need right here. I've got a foam sanding block. This is pretty fine. This is like 300 grit sanding block. I don't ever go any finer than 300 grit on anything because the cork just doesn't need it. Some guys do. I know some guys go to 500 grit and they'll tell you you have to do that. You know what? Like I said in the beginning, there's no right or wrong way. It's whatever makes you happy. Do it. So I got foam sanding grip. I got some 120, some 180, some 220 grit sandpaper. I have some 120 grit sheetrock sanding screen. This stuff works great. It doesn't load up. It's real aggressive. It takes material very, very quickly. It does a really nice job. I like this stuff a lot. A file. Now this is actually a file for filing steel. This isn't for wood, but a wood file is way too aggressive for cork. I mean, it'll shred the cork. But this file it's got a lot finer tooth on it, and I use this for rough shaping. It's extremely aggressive for cork, and it does a phenomenal job of getting the initial shape, getting all the glue lines taken off and things like that. So this does a really good job. A small metal file. That's just some spare cork. This is a razor scraper. I use this for cutting corks. I'll show you how to use that. A utility knife also works very, very well, but this works okay. I mean, you already got the blades because you need them for building fishing rods. And then a sanding block, and this sanding block's loaded with 220 as well. So those are the things, those are the abrasives that you need, and that's really all you need to turn cork handles. You don't need any special chisels or knives or tools. It's just all basic stuff you have around the house. This is just razor blades drill bits and stuff I use for other projects. But at any rate, you'll find that this lathe has actually got some other good uses too. I mean, it won't come in just for building fishing rods. Alright folks, we're ready to start this show off. Remember we glued these rings together. We're gonna finally chuck this thing up in the lathe. So this cork ring, the cork rings are set up. I'm gonna remove this from the lathe. This is gonna be kind of tricky because I got the camera between me and the lathes, and it's going to make working this a little bit tricky, but we'll give it a whirl. So get this set of cork rings out of here. Alright, so we got this out of the clamp. Let's set this aside. Now I'm going to warn you, this is going to make a hellacious mess. So you need to be prepared for that. If you're in a spot of the house where you don't want to make a big mess, you better be ready, because this is gonna throw dust and crap all over. So what I'm doing is I've got this arbor here, and I'm gonna stick this arbor in my lathe. Make sure that when you do this, you have a lathe that's got a live tailstock or a live center, so you can support the back end of that arbor. These arbors, you can buy these the same place you buy these cork rings, and they've got a little indent in the back side here that fits that tailstock. So, okay, we've got it all chucked up there, and I'm not gonna run the vacuum system because, like I said, it's gonna make a whole bunch of noise. But we're gonna turn this thing on. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my file, and I'm going to take the flat side of the file, and I'm basically just going to rough this up. I'm going to try and turn this down to a true circle all the way around, get all the surfaces the same. Just speed this up just a hair. Generally with cork, the faster you go, the better. I slowed it down, trying to keep the noise down to a minimum, but okay, so that's basically the rough shape. I got most of the glue and stuff off. Give it a little more here. Speed that up to wide open. Okay, so I got there. Yeah, now it's all pretty evenly around. Now what I'm going to do is when I turn these cork handles, I'm going to make it to fit the reel seat. So inside my reel seat here, I got a little indentation, which is exactly that diameter. It's not quite an inch, and I want to turn this edge down here. I want to make a little tenon to go inside of that reel seat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my lathe on, and I'm going to turn down just the edge of this to make a tenon. Not much. I don't know if you can see that. I'll bring the camera over here so you can see that. We'll see what I did. Well, it's not quite done yet. Let me bring the camera over. See what I did there? I made a tenon right here to accept this reel seat. And you can see that cork comes away real fast. It's close, not quite yet. Just, you got to take it little by little. Okay, that'll fit. So that's all the tenon I'm going to do there. Now what'll happen? Let me pull this out of here. So now where'd that reel seat go? I just set it down. There it is. So now when I stick the reel seat in here, you can see that tenon's going to fit. That's not quite enough. It's close though. It's going to fit right inside there. So let me chuck that up again and just take a little more off. Don't be in a hurry with this. Take your time. If you mess it up, it's not a big deal. You just make another one, but you know, nobody likes to mess it up. Get that spinning again. There it is. That should be enough now. Oh yeah, fits perfect. Okay. So now we've got our tenon in there. Now we're just going to shape this cork. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this this sanding screen for sheetrock. I'm going to get this thing spinning, and I'm going to clean this up. Just run the whole thing on there. Just smooth everything out. Get all the rough spots out. You can see what I'm saying about the dust. This thing will produce dust like you've never seen before. So what I'm doing is I'm basically getting this down to the shape that I want it. You know, right about there. I'm going to shut it off again. So now what I want to do is, this is the reel seat that I'm going to use, so I basically want it to be this diameter, which is just a skosh over an inch. So I got a long ways to go. So now what I did is I took that same screen, I'm folding it in half, I'm just putting it on the bottom here, trying to get this down to the diameter that I want. You can see the dust just flying. It's already all over my camera. Now you're going to feel some heat generated by this, and if you feel heat, just lighten up your pressure and slow it down a little bit, because the heat is just a product of the pressure. Okay, so that's pretty close to the diameter I want. It's not quite an inch, but I'm going to have to take some more off anyway, and I don't want to overdo it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put kind of a shape in here, and this is where the fun stuff starts. Move that a little closer. So there's my handle. I'm going to take my sandpaper, and I'm just going to dig into this and really get after it. And I'm going to put my finger in the middle here, and I'm going to put pressure on the finger, and then these edges are going to kind of bend in a little bit, and it's only going to take pressure or material out where my finger is. So you can see I'm kind of making a shape now. And this is a kind of the shape I like. You can experiment with shapes that you like. This is kind of the way I like to make them. And you can see how quick that comes out. And then you can take this stuff and you can make an edge. You can round it off here, and it doesn't take long. It goes quick. And Bob's your uncle. Now look at that. It looks like a handle. Well, that's about all I want to take off there. I'm about done. So now that sorry about that, folks. Ran out of battery. So now I've been exactly where I left off. I've got my basic shape. Now I want to take a less aggressive sandpaper. Here's about a 220 or a 300 grit. It's pretty light. So I'm gonna take that. I'm just gonna clean this up because this has got a little bit of a rough surface here. So I'm just gonna use some real fine sandpaper, and I'm just going to clean this up a little. Again, now if you start feeling heat here, just back off the pressure a little, because that heat is just because you're pushing on it a little too hard. Just got to be light with the touch and just clean this up. Make it all nice and smooth. You can see it got a little hot there because it burnt the cork a little. So we just want to take it nice and easy. If you get too much heat, you're going to burn that cork. And I'm not taking hardly anything off. I'm just smoothing it out. Yeah, that's got oh yeah, much better. Nice, smooth surface. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to check this with my reel seat. Make sure it fits the way I want it to. So I'm going to remove this out of the arbor. Here's my reel seat. So I'm going to go in here, and my tenon fits, and it's just a hair, just a scoshy little bit bigger than my reel seat. So I'm going to put it back in here. I'm going to tighten her back down, and I'm going to get it a little closer to what I want for size on the reel seat. So let's take and tighten the chuck back down like that. Tighten down that live center again. Get her spinning. Now I'm not gonna use the real aggressive paper. I'm just gonna stay with this paper and just take this edge down so it gets to be the diameter I want it to be at. This is where it pays to be patient and take your time. Use a little less pressure, and you get it exactly the way you want it. And you can actually even put your finger under here like this if you want to. Just get it the right way. Because you've gotten it this far, you don't want to screw it up now. So this is the time to take your time. Go like that. Take my sanding sponge and just clean her up. I think we've got it right there. I think that's all I need to do. Let's take this back out of here. Perfect. It's exactly the way it should be. Now, you might be saying, well, that tenon's a little loose. This tenon you don't want tight. You want plenty of space in there to get some glue in there when you put it together. All that tenon is doing is it's giving you a little more glue surface area, so you don't want it to fit in there tight. You can make them snug if you like. I leave them a little loose on purpose because I want some glue surface there. You can see that's perfect. That's exactly the way it should be. Okay? So that cork handle is done. Now, to get it off of this arbor, it's all very simple. You just put it back in the lathe. You grab the chuck with this hand, and you grab the cork with this hand, and you give them a twist in this direction, and the glue lets loose, and then you just slide it on off. Then you unhook it like that. Just pull it off. There's your handle. Now it's all ready to go. Now I'm going to let this sit overnight just to make sure that the glue inside of the hole is good and cured. I've only had this sitting for approximately 5 hours, and I noticed the glue on the arbor is still just a tad sticky, but that's alright. I mean, it's mostly cured for the most part, but that handle's ready to go. So I'm going to set that aside and let it cure. Now, little tip, you got all this residue on this arbor. You're going to want to get that cleaned off. So I always chuck this thing back up when I'm done with them, just as kind of a maintenance tip. And take that any sandpaper, turn this on, just clean this crap back up. It's going to make it easier to assemble more later. Just get all that glue residue off there, polish this back up the way it's supposed to be, and that's all done. Ready, you're all set and ready for the next project. We did turn out a very nice cork handle to use on our build, on any build. So that'll probably be a handle that I use on my next build. So there it is. I hope you enjoyed it. Comment if you got any questions. Please feel free to email me. If you want me to show you something specific or a different view, let me know, and I'll certainly see if I can accommodate. Have a good one.